everyone in from outside. All right, everyone, like this isn't one you want to be out in the distance. Come up forward. This is take some pictures because this one's going to be interesting. So get up in the front. Get up in the front. Don't be lazy. Don't be that guy in the back like me at church. Actually, you're in a church. You guys know that? I'm going to do a shout out to Martin because he's somewhere. If you guys ever do events, come up here, Martin. I love to shill local stuff, like my shoes that are made here, my hat, Tate & Bear down in Springville. Cecily made all this for me. She's right there in the middle. This whole outfit. This is a money bag from the Philadelphia Mint turned into a vest. And Satoshi Nakamoto down the middle of my shirt. Spell Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto. All right, event. I want Martin to tell you about what's going on here because this is actually a church turned into conference center. Talk to us what you do and who you can help.
All right, so I run a company called EventStack. We establish venues all across the United States. But we take underutilized infrastructure like churches like this that are normally empty during the week, and we do cool stuff like Cryptopia. So if you're planning anything like that, or you want to do like a tacos together event that everybody knows about, hit me up. I'm your guy.
Martin, give me a hug, man. Woo, woo, woo. I want to tell a story. I love this man, and the man that's coming up here introduced us, Kirk Ouimet. It's like 6 years ago. So many connections. The people you met here today are going to be your friends for life. I promise you, everyone met someone that is going to become intertwined in their life, and I hope that's a good thing. But that's what happens at these events. And the people you're meeting, they're connectors. They're super connectors. I'm going to give some stuff away at the very end, but I'm going to do one giveaway right now because I got them all here. The best dressed. I have 1,000 giddy for the best dress, and they're going to have to split it because they all won. Come up here, Moontax. Yes, get some photos. Look at these guys. Moontax. A year ago, me and this boy were making a YouTube channel, and we were nobodies, and we're still nobodies. But now he's running a company at the age of 25 with Harvard MBAs and law degrees and all that stuff, 12 people, and they launched 6 months ago. And now they're doing crazy stuff. And look at these outfits. Nate, man, look, this is the real thing, right? You've been up in a fighter jet with that.
In helicopter, search and rescue.
There we go. So, and there's a few more of you. Where's the wizard? He's somewhere out there.
Wizard had to go take a nap.
He's holding down the fort. So you guys got 1,000 giddy for all that? Get out of here. Get out of here, Moontax. Get your taxes done with Moontax. If you were here for the Shill Fest, that was pretty cool outside. We had about 60 people do 60 seconds of shilling. And I'm going to give it away to our boys right here. Nifty Arcade, right? Come on up, come on up. They kind of won both like the Shill Fest and the outfits. This guy went up and blessed the microphone and then allowed him to shill. Do you have anything to say real fast? One last shill, 30 seconds.
Check out Nifty Arcade. We love blockchain gaming. Cryptocurrency for the win! Yeah!
All right. So yours is big, right? I think it's 5K giddy. So find me later. We're gonna get that wallet and you're gonna start staking today. All right. This is the last and final show. There's 4 things going on. This is the Bitcoin 101. Myself and Kirk have done this for a long time. Oh wait, I have one more guest before we hit this one off. But yay, come up here. I want to give a minute. This is a shill fest. This is a unique shill. I wish he was outside for this. But he's going to tell you something. And I want someone to be moved in this room to help him out.
Hello, my name is Nyankoro Ye Samake. I'm from Mali, running for president for my country. It's not as exciting as you think it might be, but trust me, my country is in need to transfer from traditional money to cryptocurrency. Why? France has colonized our country. Now, they print our money. My country doesn't print its own money. So 14 African countries join together for a currency that is printed in France. Each time we want to buy something outside of our countries, we have to pay 10% of the cost of it to France. Each time we want to buy something or sell something, Mali is the number 3 producer of gold in Africa. Yet, if we want to sell our gold outside of Mali, then we have to pay 10% of that gold to France. What do we need now? We need immediately 2 weeks ago, I sat with the Prime Minister of Mali. I said, we need cryptocurrency. We cannot wait till I'm elected president. We have to do it now. So I'm here to meet people and get some ideas how we can fast move to put Mali onto cryptocurrency. Thank you.
Did that just happen? Can someone do that for him? Can we all together get that? John, you got to take her back there. John wants to put Mali on his Akavu. I think Giddy wants, we're all going to bid actually to be Mali's. Let's start a live bid for who wants to be Mali's currency. Do I hear? Okay, $1 million. El Salvador just did it. Countries are going to start dropping like flies to recognize cryptocurrency. And we're going to talk about why right now. Come on forward, get up here. Can I have Kirk come up, Kirk Ouimet? Actually, no, Nick. I'm going to sit down for a second and let Nick do his thing.
Thank you so much. How's everybody doing? Wow, it's a tough crowd, Scott. Okay, so my name is Nick. I don't know anything, but I am super happy to be here. Does anybody in this room also not know anything? Okay, a few of us. Okay, perfect. You're in good company. About a year ago, actually, this week, I recently relocated back to Utah, and I had been living out in Hawaii for a couple of years. And honestly, when I was out there, I just didn't even really care about what was going on anywhere else in the world because we were already in paradise, and I just didn't concern myself with what was going on. When I came back, it was like I was hit with a brick in the face 1,000 times about crypto questions. And I didn't know really where to even start. So I thought back to 10 years ago when my friend Kirk Ouimet gave me $20 in Bitcoin 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago. And he's like, hey, here's these 12 words, don't lose them. And I lost them. 10, 12? We're still trying to recover them, folks. It was painful, but I remember sitting in his office and him explaining to me this idea of money that I had no concept or clue what he was talking about. And like most things with Kirk, he is so far ahead of everybody else, it's remarkable. And so when people started to ask me questions about crypto, and I had this sheet of paper with these 12 words, which I thought I wrote down correctly, but I did not. I called him up and I said, a lot of people are asking me questions. Can I put a few people in a room and you come and just speak to them? And he said, absolutely, I would be happy to do it. I've done it a few times. And so we did that back in November, and we put out a little thing. Did anybody come to our event, Thanksgiving Point in November? One person, wow. Okay, cool, new crowd, I like that. We sold that event out in 24 hours. So I met Scott at that event for the first time. I had heard about Scott from another mutual friend for years. And Scott never ceases to amaze me with his creativity. I'll say creativity. Anyways, so he's like, we got to do this again. We did another event in American Fork a couple of weeks later. Did anybody make that event? December 14th. Okay, couple, cool, awesome. Thank you for coming to that event. Every time people had more questions, and every time I learned something. Even now, this is the 4th time that I have watched Kirk give this presentation. Scott invited us over to Salt Lake Community College a couple of months ago, and we did this again. We were doing it with business leaders in the Salt Lake Valley Chamber of Commerce, and it was fascinating. There was great questions from people that own businesses that are trying to figure out how to accept digital currency in our world. So it was a fascinating event. You're going to continue to see more and more and more of digital currency, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin specifically, and Kirk's gonna tell us a lot about that. So without further ado, I'm going to invite all 3 of these gentlemen up on stage. Give it up for Scott Paul, who put this big Cryptopia thing together. Kirk Ouimet, longtime friend, and my new friend I just met a few minutes ago, Jeremy Mustard, who is the creator of Fortnite. So give it up for these 3. Jeremy! Do you guys, you want that mic?
Yes. One more mic up here will be good for Jeremy. Because really, we just want to hear how we cheat and how we get more V-Bucks, right?
All right, I think, do we have my slides pulled up? We'll give them a sec to load that up. It's just fun to do this and to get everyone together. So today, hopefully within the next 40 minutes, everyone in this room is going to walk away with a basic understanding of how crypto works. So I'll start out with a question, and then, of course, Scott and Jeremy, just feel free to jump in during any part of this whole presentation. Does anyone here remember Kazaa, LimeWire, or Napster? Are there sinners among us who downloaded music illegally? Has anyone stolen music? So the reason I asked that is back in the day when people were connecting to each other to download and share music and other files, this was actually kind of around the origin of Bitcoin and when that was happening. One of the things that was happening with Napster, Kazaa, and LimeWire is people were connecting to centralized servers to then connect to each other and share digital files. And because these servers were centralized and hosted by companies, that allowed the music industry to go after and shut these services down in a big way. And so a lot of the people who were trying to connect on Kazaa and LimeWire and then eventually Napster, those ultimately got shut down. There was a guy named Bram Cohen, and he created a protocol called BitTorrent. Can you raise your hand if you've heard of BitTorrent? Okay, so most of everyone has heard about it. BitTorrent's solution to the problem of everyone sharing files was, what if we break up the song and we split it among 10,000 people? Is that going to be a solution for us to be able to share digital content with each other without servers getting shut down? And ever since the creation of the BitTorrent protocol, that was successful, and torrents have been used to, initially they were used for people to share music and videos with each other, but then eventually they have been used to share operating system files and other large files for huge companies. So when we ask what is Bitcoin, Bitcoin is built on top of BitTorrent, and it's this same concept of, what if instead of all of us sharing files with each other, what if we decided that we were going to share a ledger that would keep track of who has what value? And so Bitcoin is essentially a distributed ledger that anyone can participate in and anyone can issue transactions in. So that's the kind of like the key overview of the concept of Bitcoin. I wanted to walk through though and jump back, why do we need Bitcoin? And so one of the things that I like to start out with is just the history of money. So kind of, I went through and just dove through Wikipedia and just went through what are some of examples of money that have been used in the past. And you can see that since in the beginning of human history, we've always been able to barter with each other. There were stones that were used called rice stones, and people used that to share value. That ultimately led into people using gold and silver coins, which then led to China creating the first cash money. Then I was actually meeting with the previous head of the Federal Reserve yesterday, and I asked him, when did the US dollar come about? And he told me the US dollar actually came about at the foundation of our country. So when the United States began, we broke off from Europe and started using our own money here in the United States. So that's a full history of money all the way up until we have 2009. We have the introduction of the first decentralized digital currency, which is Bitcoin, which is what we're going to focus on today in this talk. So the big question that we have to ask is, what problems are we solving with Bitcoin? Like, why do we need it? And what are the problems with our current currency? And so this is a painful conversation because all of us use cash, and we have to figure out what is it about cash that is good, and what is it about it that's not so good and not serving us. So, Scott, I don't know if we can get the slides on this.
I can see
screen.
it. I can read it. I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around the banks will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. Thomas Jefferson, 1802.
Say something about that, Scott.
I'm angry, and I think we got to do something about it. That's what I don't have anything else to say. Like, I think we all like this guy. I think we all know him. We trust, like books written about him. If he's telling us he prognosticated this, like, how long ago? And we're here. We're here at the time Jefferson was talking about, because I think my food cost double for this conference that we ordered. If we did it like a year ago or two, it was half the price. So what's happening? Why is everything double, Kirk?
Well, I think ultimately, I think what Thomas Jefferson was talking about here is that when you have a central party that's responsible for the money supply, you have to give them a massive amount of trust. And so really trust is the core issue here. And so is the US dollar trustable? Or is any federally issued currency trustable? This, diving into the superdollar is, in one of the old wars, we were helping a country get set up with their own printing press so they could issue their own currency. And during the Gulf War, we lost that printing press. And since then, the Secret Service has been trying to track down the authors of this counterfeit currency, and untold tens and hundreds of millions of exact duplicate bills have been created that the Secret Service cannot discern and separate between whether it was printed by our money machines or by the lost money machine. And the lost money machine still hasn't been found. So we have an issue here with federally issued currency just of counterfeiting and someone creating false bills that are easily replicatable. So that's one of the problems that we have. If we can go back to the slides. So the other issue that we have is this concept of inflation. And so let's say if I'm in control of all the money of the world, I am going to be incredibly tempted when I want to hit the print button and to make as much money as I want to fund whatever endeavors I want to fund. And so inevitably, any country that has had the power of being the world's global reserve currency has ultimately abused that power. This graph here tracks the amount of US dollars in checking accounts. And it's if you can't see it, the x-axis goes back to 1960. And then the y-axis is the number of US dollars in the billions that exist in checking accounts. And you can see that the line doesn't really have that, we don't really see that much deviation up until around 2008. And then in 2008, the printing starts kicking up, and that was during this quantitative easing period. And then the thing that scares me, because this is a measure of all of the United States dollars that exist, you can see in 2010 a very sharp curve upwards, where we go from roughly $4 trillion in checking accounts to $20 trillion in checking accounts in a short period of time. So what are going to be the consequences of massive money printing? And I think that you alluded to some of the things that we're seeing. Tell us a little bit about used cars, Scott.
Well, when I was a kid, I was taught that if you buy a new car off the lot, that it would go down 20%. It was almost like an economic law. It's like, buy used, because if you buy it and take it off the lot, it's going to depreciate right then. Well, what's happening right now? Has anyone bought a used car in the last 7, or a used or new car? Like, the opposite's true, right? You buy it, if you can drive it off the lot, it goes up 20, 30%. I experienced it just this week. Something's going on, doesn't sound right. It's turning everything upside down that I learned as a kid. What's going on, why?
Well, I think we're going to figure that out over the next couple of years, because as this new money has been introduced by the Federal Reserve, there's going to be second and third order effects that we're going to have to watch. So Satoshi's invention of Bitcoin, if we can get the slides back up, it would be awesome to have the slides on this screen.
But if we can't get the slides, Jeremy, can you do like a Fortnite dance for us? The one you invented?
I don't do the dances, I just record them. Make them popular.
There we go.
Okay.
We're getting them over here too now.
I just have a bunch of memes in my slide deck, and we can skip past them. All right, next slide. Let's see, my clicker's not working. If someone wants to, if you in the back, you just want to manually increment.
But one of the interesting things about the slide that Kirk just showed with the amount of money supply, right, printing money, as a part of writing, so I'm in video games, right? I help to create worlds. And as a part of making those worlds realistic, we study history a lot. Because you watch the rise and falls of civilizations and empires and whatever, and these are all very interesting things to us to then make it so that it feels cool. You're in this world and like, it feels cool. Like, how did they think of all these things? Well, we studied history and real world things. One of the things that I studied was the rise and fall of empires. And there have been some economists that have taken a look at it and said, what are the key indicators of a rising empire or a falling empire? And there's several, but one of the key indicators of a falling empire, an empire that has peaked and is on the decline, is the amount of money that they print. And as they start getting into a free fall of printing money to solve all the problems, that's a clear indicator of a declining empire. And if you look at, we've gone through a few over the last 2,000 years, starting with like the Roman Empire, Franco-Prussian, United Kingdom, and now the United States as kind of the reserve currency. The US dollar is basically the reserve currency of the world right now. And the more we print, the less it retains its reserve currency status. And it's a clear indicator of the decline of the US as the world superpower. And the crazy thing is when a new superpower comes up and the other one comes down, the inevitable resolution is conflict.
I don't like that. You're scaring me.
It's scary.
Can we have a peaceful?
Anyhow.
Can we have a peaceful conflict?
So I don't know why, but money is important for some reason. Money's important.
So Satoshi's invention was effectively, here is a way to prevent the governments from stealing from you via inflation. Because for every dollar, inflation is kind of like a double-edged sword. For every dollar that the government prints, that means that money, if money is continuing to lose value, like I always used to go out to the Shasta machine in front of the grocery store, and I could get a Shasta for 5 cents, and I feel like a grandpa saying that. And now it's like, put your credit card next to a vending machine.
$3 later.
Yeah, $3 for a Diet Coke or something stupid like that. But one of the things that Satoshi did is he said, in order for us to avoid the governments from abusing their position of power, is let's have a mathematical fixed scarcity to this token. And so, so in Bitcoin, I actually have the actual schedule written by Satoshi themselves up at the top. And Satoshi said there will be 21 million coins total, and then every 4 years, the amount being minted and distributed will half. And that is a schedule that all of us can follow. The unique invention here is that there doesn't need to be a meeting about whether or not we're going to increase the supply or decrease the supply. The amount of supply was fixed up front, and everyone participating in that ecosystem knows and plays by those rules. And so there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin ever minted and created. And currently there is almost 19 million of those Bitcoin minted and created. And so a lot of people refer to Bitcoin as this digital gold, where it is incredibly, as soon as it's going to take a long time to mint out. By the time the last Bitcoin is minted, it'll be 2140. But we are essentially
You'll be frozen somewhere.
Yes, my body will be frozen next to Walt Disney's, hopefully. Yes. And so that is one of the key selling points. So when you were to say, do I like US dollars or do I like Bitcoin? If you were to just evaluate that, you would have to say, well, the US dollar is unlimited mint. So there's unlimited supply available there. And so there's not really scarcity. And on the Bitcoin side, there is a fixed supply and a finite amount, which is one of the reasons why Bitcoin over the last 10 years has crashed upward. As new waves of adoption come, as new people learn about it and learn about Bitcoin as a viable currency. I love that we had the government of Mali here on the stage, because this is something that nations can start to rely on and build on top of, which is exactly what Satoshi's dream was when they created Bitcoin. We'll skip through a few slides. So there's just I have a few of my favorite quotes from some of the top industry leaders in the space. This one's from Cameron Winklevoss, who created an exchange called Gemini. Scott, do you want to read this one?
Yeah, we need to get as many people into Bitcoin as possible before hyperinflation. This is a moral imperative, not an investment thesis. Like, I don't come up here giving like financial advice often because it's more of a moral imperative. When I say buy Bitcoin, it's like, it's the second one. At what price are you going to sell? Oh, it's gone. What price are you going to sell your Bitcoin? At what price are you going to sell your seat on a lifeboat? Right? Like, how could we not be, there's so much turmoil, how could you not be hedging with something that has the tokenomics of Bitcoin? And what it's going to be, a fixed supply. So I just think this is, we're up here, not paid, not doing this to sell you anything other than Bitcoin. Doesn't matter if you buy it or not, it's going to change our lives. But it's a moral imperative to share this, that you understand what's going on and how this is happening and how it's affecting every single human being.
Let's have Jeremy, do you want to read this slide by Fred Ursum, the co-founder of Coinbase?
Sure. In 50 years, it will be unimaginable that the networks which run society, money, the financial system, and internet platforms were once closed.
Tell us about that, Jeremy.
Well, it's interesting, right? So currently our world runs on centralized systems, right? For the most part. And we've seen in software, 30 years ago, most things were run, and especially like 50 years ago, you carefully protected your IP. Your IP was your code, and you never let your code out to other people, because if you did, they might copy it, they might modify it, they might destroy your business, right? But we've seen a conversion of people saying, you know what? We actually get great benefits from making our code open, right? And we had this whole open source movement starting maybe 30 years ago, and Linux was a big driver of that. And we see that as we open source it, there's a lot of coders out there that they have time and they're altruistic. They just want to improve the system, and they're adding more and more value to these systems. And it's interesting as larger companies start to say, hey, we should open source. Like even Epic, we got to the point where like, you know what? It's better if our engine, like the core basis of our business, where we have tons of trade secrets, if it was just open source, we should open source it. So we did like 7 years ago, 8 years ago, we open sourced the entire Unreal Engine, and we've stuck with it ever since, and we've gained great benefits from it. And maybe some game companies have taken some things that we've done and done something else with them that maybe we wouldn't have approved of, but who cares, right? The world's a better place because of it, and we've benefited more because of it than any problems that could have come up. So this is an interesting thing, because as we start to realize that open systems, transparent systems, systems where people can understand what's going on, ask real questions, and then build a consensus for change, are much more powerful systems than closed systems.
Yeah, I think when I really think about this, when I look at the M1 money supply graph that we pulled up earlier, the thing that I feel when I look at that is I actually feel powerless. Like, I feel like I have no input on how much money is going to be minted, how the monetary supply is going to be handled. And I think one of the things that Fred is highlighting here is that the government, and specifically the Federal Reserve, which is responsible for how much money exists, a lot of those conversations are behind closed doors. And we don't really have insight into what they're thinking and what they're deciding. And with an open system, like if our government is we the people, then we should all know what rules are and what games are being played. And it should be as equal, and information about our systems that we're using should be as equal and openly distributed as possible. And so Bitcoin, one of the most beautiful aspects of it is you can go to bitcoin.com, download the Bitcoin client, download the entire history of every transaction that's ever happened, and you can audit it and see that this is the exact number of coins that are existing, this is how many new are being minted, and anyone can do that. I don't even know if our current government knows how many US dollars exist. No way. You don't think so? No way. Yeah, I mean, not especially with the...
Did the guy you met yesterday at the Federal Reserve, was he able to answer that?
No, he wasn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He doesn't know.
Yeah.
They don't even know.
Yeah.
They don't even know who's pushing the print button. They don't. And I feel powerless.
Bring up the fact that the Federal Reserve is owned by banks, not an entity of the U.S. government.
Yeah, exactly. And
ooh, you also go to Jekyll Island.
yeah, exactly.
Eh. too crazy.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm a really avid angel investor, and I'm always looking for new companies to invest in. One of the things that you want to look for when you're investing in companies is you want to look for when someone's pitching you an idea, one of the questions you want to ask is this an inevitability? Or in other words, if they're successful at what they're doing, if they are successful, is that going to be the new normal? And so, like for example, we could take one example, which would be DoorDash. And DoorDash, like before COVID, you would say, maybe it's going to be really hard to convince restaurants to jump on here and allow like people to randomly come and grab food and deliver it. And now we see with DoorDash that, hey, the idea that I can just pick any food that I want in an app and have that brought to me, like that is now the new normal, and that is inevitability, and moving forward, that will never go away. And so when we look at Bitcoin, we have to say, is there a currency that, as Jeremy was talking about, we have these massive waves where we have nations that are printing money and then their nation collapses. Is there going to be a currency that can cross any border, be sent instantly, can transmit massive value, and no one controls it? Is that an inevitability? And I think that I can say with almost 100% confidence that that decentralized cryptocurrency 50 years from now, 100 years from now, is the new normal. We're not going back, and we're starting to see that happen.
Well, just think, anytime, again, convenience, right? Like, the reality is, like, yes, there's the rise and fall of nations, but who cares? Does that really affect my life? Probably not. Like, maybe my grandkids, I don't know. But you think about it, things that make my life more convenient, anything that makes it a little bit easier, takes a little bit less time, I'm all for it, right? And you can never go back, right? Would any of you ever go back to a flip phone? Maybe if you wanted to like disconnect or something, but there's not a reason, right? You're just too much. Or even think, since we're on the topic of money, a banking app, right? How many times do you go into the bank physically to do transactions anymore? Like, why would you? That takes like an hour of your time, and I can do it in 5 seconds on my phone. And cash, like even writing checks. Like, when's the last time you wrote a check, right? And but you're 20 years ago, you're writing checks all the time, right? And it's just less convenient. So to me, the things that are inevitable are the things that we as lazy humans make our lives better, right? And so to me, like, I always bet on the laziness of humans. And anything that can make make my life that much easier, I place my bet on that, right? Because we all have that tendency. We all like the path of least resistance. Water flows downhill, gravity, right? And anything that kind of fits into that paradigm is gonna win.
Any moms out there that have tried to like get their kids to do homework when they have Fortnite as an option? You bet well. You bet well. You bet really well. Good job, Jeremy.
Exactly.
I only put this slide in here because I knew Scott would love it.
God creates man, man creates Bitcoin. God says, no, that's what I'm talking about. I haven't seen that one. I love that one.
So let's talk about, okay, so we've talked a lot of philosophy up to this point. Satoshi, an anonymous creator, creates using BitTorrent, a distributed ledger that lets we the people have our own money that no one can shut down. The United States government can't shut it down. The people in Ukraine, this is like so interesting to me. Here we have Ukraine versus Russia, okay? And Bitcoin is amoral. It doesn't care, it's math and code. Ukraine tweets, hey, here's our Bitcoin deposit address, send us money. One day later, $80 million delivered to Ukraine to help support them in their war, in the war defending against Russia. Russia gets sanctioned hard by the entire West. Then immediately, they start having conversations about how they're gonna start selling oil using Bitcoin. So we kind of we're hitting this point where, hey, if there is a thing that just runs on all the computers in the world and no one's the boss of it, then it's something that all of us can all use. So it would be fun to maybe cover for the next few minutes, what does a transition look like? When a species gets to the point where they are going to switch from using centralized currencies that are controlled by few select people in power to decentralized currencies, what exactly does that look like? I have a few slides that cover some of the transitions that are happening. One of them is that I think one of the first stages of mass adoption is just going to be allowing people to acquire them and speculate on them. And I think that without a doubt, we can say that most cryptocurrencies, it feels very much like we're just going to Las Vegas. And we can speculate on the tokens, and their prices are going to go up and down. And I don't have a problem with that. I'm totally fine with crypto being Vegas, but I also think that there's some real utility, and we're going to start to see that utility become more and more useful. It was a big day when PayPal announced that you could buy and hold cryptocurrencies on their platform. And so that's this slide.
And then shortly after, Venmo, owned by PayPal, Robinhood,
Yeah.
Cash App.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get it. If you don't know how to get crypto today, like, at least hold something, even if it's not your custodian, crypto, it's everywhere.
The corporations realize, like, wow, the people have an appetite for buying and holding this type of asset.
Yep.
Another big indicator of the adoption of Bitcoin was when Tesla purchased $1.5 billion of it to hold on their balance sheet, which I thought was incredible. Now, Elon talked a little bit of trash afterwards about how Bitcoin was incredibly consumes power a lot, but we're going to work through that problem.
We were so mad that Kirk dared me to drive my Tesla off a cliff, and I almost did it to protest Elon.
We love
We made
Elon.
a great video.
So the other thing is that we just see the market cap, which is all of the value of Bitcoin multiplied by the total supply. It's right now the 6th largest currency in the world, which is insane. Remember, Satoshi first pushed the code for Bitcoin in 2009. So in 13 years, it has become the 6th largest currency in the world by market cap. So we see corporations adopting it, and then we start seeing governments adopt it. Scott, you want to just read this slide?
The city of Miami believes in Bitcoin, and I'm working day and night to turn Miami into the hub for crypto innovation. Proud to say Miami is the first municipal government to host Satoshi's white paper on government site. Oh, that's cool. I haven't read this one. This is a new one.
Jeremy, any thoughts on government and their adoption of Bitcoin? Not the federal government. Like this was just the Miami.
I think it's cool because like a lot of this, they're having a government start to accept cryptocurrency as payments, right? And just starting to legitimize it, right? They're recognizing the power of it. And it's interesting, you brought up Tesla a little while ago, because at one point they started accepting Bitcoin to pay for a Tesla. One of the problems they ran into is the delay in the transaction time, what killed them. Because you'd buy a car online, and then you wouldn't get it delivered till later, and that's when you'd make the rest of the payment, but you already you bought it for a certain agreed upon Bitcoin price. And then if Bitcoin went up, then all of a sudden they were making less. They all of a sudden sold their car for half as much. So when there's an immediate transaction, volatile coins, no problem, right? So governments, things like that, tends to be fine because most transactions are immediate. Cars were an interesting one because they did a split transaction with a pre-agreed upon price. And so as businesses, the way to get around that, if you have such a thing where it's like half up front, half on the end or whatever, you just agree upon a US dollar price, and then the conversion can be immediate, right? Anyhow, it's interesting. That's kind of besides the point, but I love that they're hosting Satoshi's white paper on the government site. And if I remember right with Miami, they also did some sort of interesting staking where they actually started generating revenue for the city, and they've generated, since this point, millions and millions of dollars for the city that now have gone back into the city because their currency is actually generating money while keeping their the basis.
We call that
their
DeFi,
thing.
right?
it's DeFi, right? And they're taking advantage of it in a brilliant way, right? It's awesome.
I think, just when I think about the city of Miami and hosting the white paper, it just makes me think, the United States, like how did we start? We started because we were so pissed off about England and the taxation.
4% tax.
Well, oh, that's what it was?
We were pissed about a 4% tax.
How far we've fallen.
I know, it's crazy.
And so what do? We broke onto the ships and we dumped all their tea in the water. And it's like, Bitcoin is like literally the most American invention that you can imagine, of just like such frustration with the existing systems and trying to do something about it. So we have the city of Miami coming in and adopting it. And then this was massive news to me when I saw it, because I never thought it would happen this fast. And it's when El Salvador announced that they were making Bitcoin legal tender. And that happened, when was that? That must have been 9 months ago?
Yeah, like not even a year ago.
Yeah, and so let's think about El Salvador and what their motivation was. So El Salvador, their currency was and is the US dollar. And they're completely powerless. If the United States decides to print a massive amount of money and give it to people via PPP loans or give it to corporations here in the United States, then that whatever amount of money flowing around in El Salvador is just continually devalued, and they're not the direct recipients of that.
Just like the Mali, it's just like these French, they're tied to the French price of the French currency, and they have to pay a tax on top of it.
Yes.
And they're at the mercy of whatever. Yes, there we go.
Yeah, that's crazy, because I think El Salvador wasn't paying this additional tax on top of it. It was just pegged to the dollar, and that was enough to cause them to want to switch.
Yeah.
Because they're powerless, right? So it's gaining power back into the hands of the individual country, the individual cities, the individual people, right? Like it's a big deal, and decentralization is that, right? Like, yeah, I'm an adult. Let me take care of myself, right? Let me make my own decisions.
So the president of El Salvador, President Bukele, I have an interesting background on how this actually happened. So there was an entrepreneur here in the United States named Jack Mallers, and he created an app called Strike that allows you to send Bitcoin back and forth to each other for really cheap. And he launched the app on the App Store, and the amount of people in El Salvador that were using it just went crazy. So much so that the president of El Salvador said, "What is going on?" He invited Jack to come to his country, and within a week, they put together the legislation and the plan to allow Bitcoin to be legal tender. Since then, I think the stat is that we have 5 countries now, 5 nation states in the world that now accept and have Bitcoin as their legal tender. And so who was the guy from Mali? Ye. So we should talk to Ye, get him in touch with Jack, and see if Jack can implement a national solution to have Bitcoin be with the currency of his nation.
Sounds like there's he said several other African countries
that need it.
And you know that several others are happening down in South America, right? So it's like, it's gonna happen this year probably.
Yeah.
Many, many countries.
Things to pay attention to, like as far as Bitcoin goes, is how many nation states accept it as legal tender. We are at 1, we're at 5. When that number starts hitting 30, you better have your bags packed. Like, you want to be you're going to definitely want to have exposure to Bitcoin in some capacity. I also love the president of El Salvador. So not only did he go hard in converting his whole nation to accepting Bitcoin, but then he also raised $1 billion bond to buy Bitcoin and to build Bitcoin City and to create a whole mining facility powered by a volcano in his country. Like, that's pretty sick. And then he's also super funny, and when Bitcoin price crashes, he posted this, which is new profile pic, and he's got a McDonald's hat on. It's just like, he's the best. So if we talk about the mechanics, if we ignore short-term volatility, and we just talk about what are the mechanics of a fixed supply currency and what happens when waves of adoption occur, we can take a look at this slide, which is, this is the Bitcoin price on Thanksgiving slide. And you can see in 2011, it was $2.50. And if you can just plot that on the graph and just see, like, if people continue to adopt and use Bitcoin, and nation states continue to adopt and use it, yes, there will be crazy volatility. Bitcoin could drop to $5,000 again. It's been insanely volatile. but it could also go to $100,000 with each wave of adoption. And so just being aware that this is happening is the point of this whole presentation, which is a digital currency has been created that is for the people, by the people, and cannot be controlled by any government. As long as there's an internet connection, you have control of your money. That's thing number one. Thing number two, it's being adopted and used globally to fund war efforts, to fund oil trade, and for major nation states to use it in those capacities. But it's also being used in day-to-day transactions. And there's always, there's this adoption curve that you have to look at, and this is the waves of, and I've gone through this emotion, and maybe many of you have gone through it as well, which is the price goes crazy, and then it dips, and then you say, it'll go lower, I'll buy it when it goes lower, which a lot of us are probably feeling right now. We're like, we'll see if it pulls back a little bit more, we'll buy some more. But this continues, as we've watched it, this continues to go. And about 10 years ago, a guy on the internet created a model called moon math. And moon math is a prediction of the value of Bitcoin over time. And here you can see on the rainbow, if the price of Bitcoin is in the blue end of the rainbow, then it may be a good time to buy Bitcoin. And if it's at the high, like purple or red end of the rainbow, it may be a good time to sell Bitcoin if you want to trade it. But generally speaking, if you look at the overall trend, as Bitcoin is adopted, and because there's a fixed and finite supply, as long as new waves of adoption come, it'll become increasingly rare, increasingly scarce, and then increasingly useful. We got another meme here. I don't know, it's just from Lord of the Rings. There's nothing special about this slide, except I liked it. So I wonder, we have 5 minutes remaining. Do we want to do any Q&A? Or Scott and Jeremy, do you have any final thoughts that you wanted to share?
Well, every time we've done this, we've told people to try to become a whole coiner. Just get one whole coin. It's a good time to do it right now. It's going to cost you about half of what the all-time high, Bitcoin, or more so. And we've been through a lot of these waves, and you get pretty resilient to it. You start to see, you don't get as scared, because I think we know what's happening here. Why do we want to be a whole coiner? Because there's only 21 million that will ever be made. Most of them are lost. Like a few million of them are lost. Satoshi owns 1 million of them, and he's never moved them. And there's a lot of millionaires in the world that probably want to have, just like these NFTs and these Bored Apes, they probably want to have a whole coin. Like, they'll pass it down to generations and generations and generations.
So there are 21 million millionaires in America. And worldwide, there are a lot more. Not all the millionaires, not all the millionaires in the world can have a whole Bitcoin. You can't.
It's weird to think. What are they doing? They buying like Boomer coin?
Well, they'll trade out their Boomer coin for Bitcoin in a little bit.
And they'll pay dearly for it eventually, right? So here's my question for you. Not you personally, because you guys are all in, but how much should a regular person in their portfolio, and this isn't like financial advice per se, but just what's the recommended amount of exposure that you should probably have to Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in general?
I think that's a great question. I personally like, and I started out with trying to target 10% of my net worth in crypto. If you get 10% of your net worth in crypto, in 5 years, you'll find that it'll be 80% of your net worth, and then you'll have difficulties rebalancing and trying to figure out how you want to handle that. But I also like Scott's kind of approach of just try to get one whole Bitcoin, and if the Bitcoin price crashes down to $10,000, well, then it's that much easier to buy and hold one whole Bitcoin. But really, as far as like just portfolio allocation, and you always want to have, no matter what, 12 to 24 months of cash to be able to live your life and pay for stuff in the event of you losing your job or needing to be able to cover your loans, your debts. Cash still has insane utility. We use it to buy food and pay mortgages and pay taxes. So you need that. But if you have excess income or if you have excess savings through investments, then you definitely want to be holding on to, I would say, 10% in crypto. specifically in holding Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think that sounds like a no-brainer.
You don't have to just buy it at once. Like, put it away, dollar cost average into it. Every app out there lets you do a weekly buy, just automatically. And if you had been doing that 3-4 years ago and just enough every week, you could probably be at a full Bitcoin by now. And so just dollar cost average, don't look at the price, just always buy. Like, don't get emotional about it, that's how you lose.
I kind of feel that this is Cryptopia, so probably everyone in this room has some amount of Bitcoin.
This is Bitcoin
But if you
101.
don't have any Bitcoin, just come bug him, and he will give you Bitcoin for free.
Well, he'll give you some Giddy, I think.
He'll give you Giddy, but ask him for Bitcoin.
I straight up give Nigerian hackers Bitcoin.
We should definitely give the Yay from Mali some
Yeah,
Bitcoin.
he's here. I'll give him some Bitcoin for
Um,
sure.
we have-
I actually think Bitcoin should be the currency. He's going to go talk to some other people,
Yeah.
but it should be, well, maybe we should talk about that.
Yeah.
Why should it be Bitcoin and nothing else?
Yeah. So you can tell like this whole conversation is a lot about Bitcoin. Cryptopia is about DeFi, and there are so many. There's thousands, tens of thousands of different tokens that you can speculate and buy on. And I would just view that is Las Vegas. And sometimes and right now the entire DeFi scene is just like the dot-com boom of the year 2000. There's gonna be some tokens that are gonna be like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, that are gonna be worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Hopefully Giddy is one of those, and I shield Giddy as a small investor, but also because I know Scott's gonna be leading and guiding that project. But if you don't have that much crypto exposure, don't let the first token you buy not be Bitcoin. If you're gonna hold anything, you're gonna wanna hold Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin has a lot of room to grow, and there's a lot that needs to be done to make Bitcoin even better. And so one of the things that me, Scott, Jeremy, and a group of about 8 to 10 guys are working on is trying to continue to move Bitcoin forward. So Satoshi's last message that he sent, I don't know if we lost our slides.
There's more work to do.
This was the last message that Satoshi posted before they went silent. That was in 2010. And so we've got some ideas on how we want to push Bitcoin forward. And so if you just want to keep an eye on what we're up to, you can just go to bitchain.foundation, and you can pop in your email, and we've got a project that we're excited to share. We're not quite ready yet, but it'll be coming in the coming months and probably by the end of this year. So thank you very much for your time.
It's probably nothing, right?
Probably nothing.
So
maybe, yeah.
we're going to be the merge.
Yeah. So thank you all for coming. I hope that you walk out of this room knowing a little bit more about Bitcoin and crypto, and just appreciate your time and attention.
Woo! Thank you. Let's do any Q&A real fast before we give some gifts away. Anybody have one question? No? All right, so let's give a snowboard away. I want everyone to look under your seat. You find a sticker that says, "Can't stop, won't stop." My fellow rapper friend. Looks like this. Come on up here and get a prize. I did the old stuffing under the seat. And some of you suckers are gonna go looking on all those empty seats over there because you want this stuff. What do you want? Snowboard? All right, go get a Kemper board over there. It's yours, baby. You got one, Josh? What do you want? Oh, we got more here. Okay. Where's that other gifts? I know we have a pair of Taft shoes that Corey's giving away. You want shoes? Who wants shoes the most? Let me see your shoes. Get up here. Do you guys care about shoes? Some Nikes. What do we got? Some boot. Damn. Who should get it? Guy with these. Actually, get up here and do a dance, and whoever dances better gets the shoes. All right. You'll do a Fortnite dance. Yep. All right, you got Taft shoes. There you go. We got another gift for you. You got one too? You got one? Ah, oh, dang it. Where are all my gifts? Well, find us later. Hold on to that thing. We got 5 gifts we're giving away. What's that? I just gave them away. Yeah. Suckers. Well, no, because they were under their seat. I'll give more away. I have more stuff. What's that? Let me give that up here. Let's wait for people to come in. I think people are just going to talk for the rest of their life, but we'll see. Let's wait till 4:30. Let's do a Q&A. Kirk, you gone? Dude, I got abandoned. Does anyone want to ask Fortnite questions? Cheats? Everyone wants to know cheats. Come tell us a story, Jeremy. Just come on up. Tell us about the dance or something. Tell us something about world building while we wait for the other sessions to get out. I want to hear these things.
World building, huh? Oh, I can talk about that, sure. All right, well, so this is tangentially related to everything we're doing here, right? Because with anything, right? Cryptocurrencies, any technology, right? Technology is just a tool, right? It's how you use it. Technology could be used for good, it can be used for bad. You see that everywhere, right? Software can be used for whatever purpose. Crypto can be used for good and bad. It's how we choose to use it, right? And so when we were creating this, when we were creating Fortnite, we were sitting there talking about like, what kind of feeling do we want people to have within this world, right? And there were some people that were definitely like, you know, this is coming from, some of these people helped develop like Gears of War, right? One of the bloodiest games ever made. And we're like, we don't want it to feel like that. We want it to feel like a fun place to be. We want it to be bright and colorful and kind of endearing, even though in the midst of it, you're shooting people, whatever. But one of the things that makes Fortnite interesting is it was one of the, we watched it over time, and it was one of the least toxic things that had ever been, the least toxic communities that had ever been created. And we were trying to analyze, like, well, why, how did we achieve such a low level of toxicity? Like, everyone was being nice to each other. And it comes back to some key decisions that we made early on, where we tried to instill certain principles into the design team. Because we were like, okay, whenever we approach designing a product like this, we're like, what are some of the foundational principles that we want to follow? And for this game, we were like, yeah, it's got to be fun, it's got to be endearing, but at kind of its core, we want it to be generous. Like generosity was one of the key foundational principles, and you can see that in our monetization systems. Like, we changed the industry, right? I helped invent the Battle Pass, and it was this way where, like, we cannot do gotcha style loot boxes. Loot boxes are kind of a predatory mechanic that preys on our gambling sensibilities. And it's like you open this box and you're like, I get all these surprises, how cool. And it causes this dopamine hit and you want to buy more. And for adults, that's fine. But for kids, it's super predatory. And all the games were using it. We're like, we cannot do this. We have to come up with a new mechanic. And all the games were doing it. So we're like, let's build the Battle Pass. And we built this whole new system on how it could do it. It's transparent. Like, it fits all like the paradigms of crypto, right? It was transparent. You could see everything. You knew exactly what you're getting and what effort you had to put into it to achieve that thing. And we were also able to make a lot of money off of it. But that was a big discussion. Like, there were people that were very scared that we would not make any money off of this system, and prove them wrong. But dancing. We were sitting in a design discussion talking about taunts. Like, a lot of games have what we refer to as taunts, where you could be playing the game, whatever game it is, but then you can stop and you can choose an animation to play on your character. And quite often, they were referred to as taunts because that's where they were originally meant to be, is like you're in a competitive game and you're taunting the other players, right? And so they often fell into that category of kind of rude gestures, I don't know, rude gestures.
You learn how to swear in every language.
Yeah, you do. And we said, we're not going to do taunts. We're going to do fun things. We're like, well, what fun things? Like, well, let's just do like dances. And we were like, let's start with like touchdown dances. Like, let's be celebratory. Like, And how can you be more celebratory about, like, sure, when you win, you can dance, and that's, some people might be offended by that, but you're just having a joyful dance, right? And in the middle of a thing, like, sure, you can just dance, and maybe we'll start a dance party, and how cool would that be? And so we're like, let's put dances in here. So our team went and we're like, okay, cool, let's find a bunch of like the old meme dances from early internet memes before meme was even a word, and let's take some of those and put them in. That'd be cool, like people know those, and let's put in more and more, and it just became this thing that took off. And we're like, that's one of the key factors to, like, this was a non-toxic environment because the language we gave people was a joyful language. And we thought that was super interesting, and it led to a very non-toxic community. So even it bled into the forums, the discussion groups, the Discord channels. People were just nice to each other. They're trying to cooperate and help each other and do these things. And even the influencers that had a history of, like some of the Twitch people that had a history of like swearing on their channel and things like that, they started becoming more and more clean and kid-friendly because they wanted to appeal to this audience that was a more friendly audience. And it was just interesting, all the knock-on effects of some of these small decisions that we made along the way to just try to make it a friendlier environment.
Tell me about what the future is. How would it talk about metaverse here today, crypto? You guys do more processing than Visa. Like, tell us where Epic is and how it relates to the stuff we learned today.
Yeah, so as far as, I mean, metaverse is a big topic. It's a buzzword, right? And so a lot of people, when you think of a metaverse, have different things come to your mind. Personally, when I think of a metaverse, I start with the basic level, right? Because I think of what is there compelling content, and there's got to be a platform where people come in. You can come to a place to search for content, find the content that you like, and that content has to be created from the ground up, not from the top down, to be a true metaverse, because it's all about the content creators, and everybody should be free to create content. And those content creators should be able to have a career path within that platform. So to be a true metaverse, you have to have an economy within it that creators can earn a living off of. And so creators fuel it, and creators can live off of it. And so at a very basic level, with just those economic principles, the very first, what I would call metaverse 1.0s are like YouTube. I would say that's a proto-metaverse, right? And then what we all envision, though, when we hear metaverse, we all are thinking like Ready Player One, VR helmets. Maybe you're old enough to have read Snow Crash, and some of the first time metaverse was coined as a word. And within the industry, the games industry, we've talked about it a lot. We've been working on virtual economies for 30 years, right? So some of the things that we're watching in DeFi and crypto, we're like, these are all very interesting things that everyone's like, this is all new, it's changing everything. We're like, we've been doing this for a long time, actually, and there's some pitfalls that you're gonna run into. So we're watching it it's very interesting to see the growth of it. But as far as metaverses go, you start with that foundational layer of a creator economy. Then you add on top of that, what is it a fun place to be, right? Do you want to actually live part of your life in this place and be there longer and longer? And that's where the visualization aspect comes into play, right? And there's lots of ideas on what it could look like or what it could be like. But if you start, like for example, in Fortnite, we started putting concerts in the game. We started previewing. We had J.J. Abrams come in and preview Star Wars in the game and explain it to people. We created this technology that allowed someone to come in and capture some of their emotion and display it to across 15, 16. I think our peak concert was like 18 million people in a concert, all at the exact same time, experiencing the exact same moment at the same time, right? Which is crazy, right? There's very few broadcasts that have ever reached that many people simultaneously, right? And so it's fun. It starts to become more of this play space, right? So we added in, like, you can play like miniature golf in the game. You can play all these things. And we started to say, like, we started to ask ourselves the question of, like, what is Fortnite in, like, kind of an existential way? And we determined that we had basically recreated the mall experience. So how many of you kind of grew up in the 80s? Teenagers in the 80s, 90s. When you would call your friends on your landline, corded phone, and you'd be like, hey, guys, let's all get together. You call each one individually and be like, let's all go to the mall and we'll meet there at 3. And you go or on a Saturday, you go early and you just hang out for hours. And you'd wander around the mall and you'd, I don't know, throw coins in the pond and go into the music store and listen to music for a while. And you'd go into random stores, try on clothes, I don't know, look at the shoes, go to the arcade and play games, maybe go get an Orange Julius, right? This is the mall experience, right? You just hang out, you just talk, and you go do random activities. And we're like, that's what Fortnite recreated, was the mall experience. You could just go into the game, you could meet up with your friends virtually, you had voice chat with your friends, and it was so funny, because some of these kids, we'd get letters from parents saying, like, our kids, they've been texting each other all the time, and they go into the game and they're like, whoa, talking is cool. And we're like, talking to each other in real time? This is cool. We should do this more often. And we're like, you guys, you kids.
What have we done?
Anyhow, but it's like, cool. We help bring talking back into the world of kids. That's cool. I'm glad we could do that. And we helped bring dance back in the world, right? Like, that was a cool thing that kids started you started seeing kids dancing everywhere, and you're like, wow, like, I'll watch movies and be like, hey, that's a Fortnite dance. Oh, Michelle Obama got up at something and danced with some kid, and it was a Fortnite dance. We're like, that's awesome. Like, how cool is that to influence the world in that sort of a way? Metaverse, though, right? You start to bleed out into the culture. And you start building on top of these places, and you're like, okay, I want to be in a friendly place. But take Fortnite, for example. We'd have to enable a creator economy, right? Instead of us putting on a concert, if we created the tools for anybody to put on a concert. Or if we created, like, I was always like, I want comedians in cars getting coffee in Fortnite. I want Jerry Seinfeld sitting in there, and you could hop in next to him on a golf cart and go around and hear his jokes, right? I want that, right? I want that experience. I want all sorts of experiences within the context of this virtual world where I'm just playing, just having these experiences, being entertained and doing all these things. How cool is that, right? So that's kind of the promise of where we could go, right? And it'll just get better and better, higher fidelity. It'll look real. Nowadays, this is easier to explain. Like 5 years ago, I was trying to tell people about, like, we are going to all work in virtual offices where we'll all have representations of ourselves. We can set up our desks however we want. You go in, and you might put it into privacy mode and just be like, I'm just working by myself in my room, and you'll all just be remote, working at home. But then you can turn on office mode, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, I'm here, and there's people around me. I can see the desks, I can hear the chatter, and be a part of the vibe of the office, go to meetings, and we just have to get it like so real time that you don't get that weird Zoom effect of like, oh, I have to do like Zoom politeness and mute and unmute and do all these things.
Are you guys building that? Are you going to pick a currency to run your economy or build one? Oh, geez. We'll have an announcement in October. Jeremy will tell you something.
There's a ways to go. So really quick, just to end us off, because I think you've got some things.
Giveaways, yeah.
But so some of the hurdles that crypto and DeFi and blockchain will have to overcome to be used at scale. So like Fortnite, so Bitcoin can transact at about 7 transactions per second. Ethereum is like twice that. Polygon tries to solve that, and they're like upwards of 1,000 transactions per second. Some of the other chains are doing similar things where it's like, we're trying to achieve this scale, and they're all trying to achieve Visa scale, which is 2,000 transactions per second, because that would help. You could then say, we can run the money transactions of point of sale. What we look at those are like, well, our back-end process is about 20,000 transactions per second. And that's just for one app, right? And if you have AWS on-chain, if you had Fortnite on-chain, if you had these other apps on-chain, we're talking about millions of, possibly like billions of transactions per second. So to be true Web3, to go from current DeFi to true Web3, we're going to have to hit billions of transactions per second. So there's a lot of work to do. That's one. 2, fraud. Got to get fraud levels way down, right? DeFi in general, I think, is doing a good job. NFTs, bad job, right? Fraud is rampant. I think someone was saying it's like 90% fraud. It's true. So there's a long ways to go on fraud. So as a company, like a large-scale company working worldwide, if you have over 2% fraud, you get shut down, basically. You can no longer process transactions. And so we have to have all fraud below. That's like the high threshold, right? You're dead. If you're above 1%, you're in warning levels. So you have to have fraud super low. So fraud is a big issue. Transaction time is a big issue. Like right now, if you're doing DeFi stuff in the DOS era of DeFi, right? You're okay if you're like, I do a transaction and it takes 10 seconds or 15 seconds or a minute or 2 minutes. You're okay with that because you're on the bleeding edge. But when you get to mass market, if it takes longer than like 0.1 second, you're dead, right? So you have to have like a service level agreement of processing time. And we'll have to conquer that, right? Where it's guaranteed to be lower than a certain amount of time for transactions. What else? There's other things too. The amount of data you can store in a certain packet would have to be larger. So there's all these things we have to solve to get to true Web3.
Yeah, to get games on there. That's true. You're not even doing that.
It'll come.
It's coming.
There's just know that it's not happening like 6 months from now.
Is there anything you can give? Is there anything you can give away today?
Anything I can give away?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't have anything with me.
All right.
I'm sorry.
How about lunch? How about lunch with me and you on one of our sponsors, Zenny? Will you take lunch with someone here?
I could do that.
All right. There we go. Founder of Fortnite, myself, and Zenny's going to sponsor. Zenny is an AI bookkeeping tool that sponsors all my lunches here in Utah. So who wants to go to lunch? Raise a hand first. All right. You tell me what the first person to shout out what Satoshi in English is. Yeah, you got it. There he goes. Ash Ketchum. Ash Ketchum is Satoshi over in Japan is the character who catches all the Pokemon trainer. Ash Ketchum. So you got it. So you're doing that. I got some more though. Hey, can we give another snowboard away? Are you feeling generous today? We gave away one, but I gave it away before everyone got back here.
Thank you guys. It was fun talking.
Okay, thanks guys. Thanks, Jeremy. Then we're gonna give this away. Yep, I got a few things. You're gonna be in charge of the question. Come up here, Jib. Give away a snowboard and an NFT. What do you want to shill? And then what do you want someone here to guess to get the snowboard? Maybe some factoid that they can get. Think about it.
Like a trivia question?
Yeah, they already got all the stuff in the
The guy who created Kemper, what was his first name? That's me. I didn't create Kemper.
Shout it out.
David.
David Kemper. What year?
1987.
Do you snowboard? Oh, come on. You're killing me, man. You will. You promise? Okay, don't mess around.
I'll get your info and we'll ship it.
All right, we got some more. We got this box. Can you come explain it? Whoever's box this is. What's in here? This is a crypto crate. Is that your company?
This is my company. This is Crypto Crate, cryptocratestore.com. And what it is crypto-themed merch, swag.
Man, I needed these today. I have.
We have a tie for you.
I want it. I have my.
Bitcoin tie. Nice. Oh, awesome.
But you have
yeah.
Bitcoin socks in here, and
Those
that would have been more
perfect.
appropriate.
Yeah, Bitcoin socks. We got some soap for you now too, so.
Right.
You'll have to do that, but.
When did
yeah.
the white paper? When did the white paper get published? What date?
Can't answer my own question.
Huh? December 12th? Can someone fact check that? Because I don't know. Nobody knows. Let's give another one. It's another good trivia. Get up here. All right. I mean, you cheated, but it's good because we're all about cheating here. Shortcuts are good. That's how you hack the system. All right. We got 2 more boxes from Pattern that have some goodies in it. Oh, wireless earbuds from Skull Candy. All right. Where was Skull Candy? Who can yell out who founded Skull Candy? Who started Skull Candy? There you go. Get one. It's a Utah company, guys. That was good. I'm proud of you. Okay, guys, tonight is a party at the Exchange, not next door. Ironically, right next door is a place called Exchange. That's not where we're going. It's downtown. And if you have the VIP ticket or you bought the ticket, that starts in about 2 hours. The Exchange, Salt Lake City. Anyone can go to dinner with anybody. Meet someone, go to dinner with someone. Like, you should be doing that every day. You should never eat alone. That's like a book, but it's also a truth. Never eat alone. Go find someone, go out to dinner, find out what they're doing, invite them, pay for it. Just do whatever you can to meet people. All right, we have one more earbuds. What's that? And then we're done? Oh, I'm so tired. Oh, you got someone to give away? Get up here. Oh, that's right. You're with Nifty.com. All right, we got some. Come on, there's more coming up. There's more prizes growing here. How do you want to give it away? I'm going to let you take it away and figure out how to give it away.
Okay, I got a question for you guys. Whoever gets closest to this and or right on, the number of transactions in 2021 or the percentage of transactions of the blockchain that were gaming related in 2021. No. Closer. 32's close. Keep going. Up, up, up. Up, higher. What'd you say? 40's close. Up. Up. Not 45. Okay, who said 49? Okay, cool. You right here. Come on up. So you won. So we have a sponsorship with Splinterlands, which is one of the coolest Web3 games. So you won 9 Splinterlands packs, 1 Cinder Fae from Clark Stacy, who's awesome, 1 Angry Mall NFT, 3 Axie, 1 Pega, and 1 Stickman skateboard, I think. I'll have to talk to Stickman and see if they're still here. But anyways, yeah, you won a lot, so thanks.
All right. I think I want to keep this one for myself. It's pretty cool, actually. I got to bring something home for my kids, but I'll give it away. Giddy's at like 14 cents today. It's kind of hard to look at that because it was up at 30. But guess what it started at less than 2 months ago? Whoever can tell me. There you go, 0.002. So people that think, oh no, Giddy not up. Giddy up, 0.002, less like 50, 60 days ago, and it's at 14 cents. Get yourself some Giddy, guys. Please, and if you don't have some, talk to me. I can make that happen. Not today, though. I'm tired. That's Cryptopia. We are done. Get the hell out of here.
time the beat drop.